Imagine waking up one morning and realizing something is missing. Not your phone, not your keys, not your motivation, your thinking. You can still scroll, you can still talk, you can still form opinions, but the ability to pause, to question, to doubt, to examine, it feels weaker than it used to. And the strangest part is that almost nobody seems worried. People repeat what they heard with total confidence. They defend narratives they never investigated. They pick sides in wars they don't understand. They laugh at nuance like it's weakness. And you start to wonder, what happens to a society when critical thinking becomes rare? When reflection is replaced by reaction? When truth is replaced by the feeling of being right? Because that world is not coming. It's already here. In this video, we're going to expose the quiet decline of critical thinking and the rise of something more dangerous than ignorance, collective mental surrender, a condition where entire groups stop investigating reality and start outsourcing their minds to slogans, tribes, and emotional certainty. And by the end, we'll reach the most uncomfortable truth of all. Critical thinking isn't disappearing because people are too stupid to do it. It's disappearing because thinking has become expensive, socially expensive, emotionally expensive, even economically expensive. And when thinking becomes costly, obedience starts to feel like common sense. Before we go deeper, if you want more videos like this, philosophy, psychology, and the invisible systems shaping your inner life, subscribe. Not for content, for the habit the modern world is trying to delete: attention. Now let's begin with the truth that sounds insulting, but isn't. Thinking is hard, not hard like a math problem, hard like lifting weight you didn't realize you'd been avoiding. Thinking requires friction. It requires patience. It requires the courage to feel uncertain. And modern life is designed to remove friction, not because someone is evil, but because friction is bad for business. Contemplation doesn't monetize well. Outrage does. Speed does. Certainty does. So we built a world that rewards quick answers and punishes slow questions. And then we acted surprised when people stopped asking. 1. The age of noise is the age of obedience. There is a reason you feel mentally tired even when you've done nothing. Your mind is being processed constantly. Notifications, headlines, hot takes, clips, arguments, predictions, threats. Your brain is swimming in signals. And when the brain becomes overloaded, it doesn't become wiser. It becomes simpler. It starts using shortcuts. It starts relying on social cues. It starts copying the emotional tone of the crowd, not because you're weak, because you're human. The brain evolved to conserve energy. Deep thinking is energy intensive. And in a world that drains your attention all day, your mind begins to choose survival over insight. So instead of analyzing, you adopt. Instead of investigating, you align. Instead of thinking, you repeat. And that's where collective stupidity begins, not in low intelligence, but in low mental bandwidth. Collective stupidity is what happens when millions of people are too exhausted to question and too socially afraid to doubt. And if you think this is just how it is, ask yourself something simple. When was the last time you read something slowly, without checking your phone? When was the last time you let an idea bother you for an hour instead of killing it with a distraction? That skill is disappearing, not accidentally. 2. Manufactured consent wasn't a theory. It was a blueprint. Long before algorithms, thinkers like Noam Chomsky warned that modern systems don't need to imprison bodies. They only need to manage minds. You don't need violent censorship when you can drown people in noise. You don't need to ban questions when you can make questioning socially expensive. Power doesn't always silence the truth. Sometimes it just makes the truth feel exhausting. Because a distracted population is easier to guide. A tired population is easier to persuade. A frightened population is easier to control. And the best part, from the system's perspective, is that nobody feels controlled. They feel informed, they feel updated, they feel like good citizens. They feel like they're on the right side. Meanwhile, the habit of thinking quietly dies in the background. 3. Information overload doesn't create wisdom, it creates dependence. We assume more information means more intelligence. But in practice, more information often creates more dependence. Because when you can't evaluate everything, you begin to rely on filters. And the modern filters are not neutral. You outsource your attention to influencers, trending topics, headlines, experts. You've never actually checked the emotional mood of your feed. This is called social proof, the instinct to treat popularity as evidence. And it's one of the most exploitable instincts in human psychology. A post gets thousands of likes, and your brain whispers, "It must be true," or at least important. A narrative spreads quickly, and your brain assumes it must be real. Why else would everyone be repeating it? But speed is not truth. Volume is not reality. Sometimes volume is just coordinated emotional reinforcement. In other words, a crowd can feel like evidence even when the crowd is wrong, and history is filled with crowds that were wrong. 4. Why deep reading is vanishing and why it matters. Critical thinking depends on something simple that we barely protect anymore. Sustained attention. Not quick attention, not reactive attention. Sustained attention is the ability to stay with complexity without panicking. And digital life trains the opposite. We skim, we jump, we scroll, we glance. We absorb fragments instead of structures. And when you lose the ability to follow long reasoning, you become vulnerable to short manipulation. Because propaganda loves a short attention span. It thrives on clipped context, emotional framing, gotcha moments, simplified villains, easy slogans. And once you get used to that form of thinking, real thinking begins to feel boring. A long argument feels like torture. A nuanced position feels suspicious. A slow thinker feels weak. So society begins to reward confident simplification, and the loudest simplifiers rise. 5. The emotional reason thinking is dying. Now here's the part most people won't admit. Critical thinking hurts. Not because it's hard, but because it threatens identity. To think critically is to risk being wrong, to risk losing your tribe, to risk discovering that something you built your life on was inherited, not earned. And many people would rather feel safe than feel true. So instead of thinking, they defend. They retreat into groups that feel certain. They memorize slogans instead of exploring questions. And the more threatened people feel, the more they cling to certainty. This is why the modern mind often behaves like this. It doesn't want reality. It wants psychological safety. And certainty delivers safety like a drug. That's why the most dangerous ideas aren't the ones that are false. It's the ones that are false and emotionally satisfying. Because people don't just believe them. They need them. 6. The hidden training system. School, work, and social life. Let's go deeper. If critical thinking is disappearing, we should ask, where did we learn to stop? And the answer is uncomfortable. Many of us were trained early to confuse obedience with goodness. In school, curiosity often got punished. Not intentionally, but structurally. You were rewarded for following instructions, repeating expected answers, staying inside the lines, not disrupting the pace. And over time, you learned a silent lesson. Thinking freely is risky. Conformity is safe. Then you enter adult life, and the lesson intensifies. In workplaces, questioning can cost you opportunities. In social circles, nuance can cost you belonging. Online, doubt can get you attacked. So people adjust. They learn what to say, what not to say, how to sound right. They become socially intelligent and intellectually passive. 7. The psychology of surrender. Why freedom scares people. There's a reason this happens. Freedom is heavier than people admit. Real freedom means you can't hide behind the crowd. You can't blame what everyone thinks. You can't outsource your moral responsibility. The thinker Erich Fromm argued that many people secretly want to escape freedom because freedom comes with uncertainty, and uncertainty is terrifying. So they trade freedom for structure. They trade thinking for belonging. They don't call it surrender. They call it being realistic, being responsible, being mature. But maturity without thinking isn't maturity. It's adaptation. 8. the mind's two modes, and how the internet traps you in the fast one. Psychology describes two ways the mind operates: a fast system, automatic, emotional, quick judgments; a slow system, careful, deliberate, analytical. The fast system keeps you alive, but the slow system makes you wise. And modern life traps you in the fast system, because every platform is designed for speed, reaction, instant opinion, instant outrage, instant belonging. In this environment, people don't evaluate ideas. They perform identity. They adopt positions that signal the right tribe. And here's the frightening part. Once a belief becomes identity, evidence becomes an enemy. Because changing your mind feels like losing yourself. So confirmation bias takes over, the tendency to seek information that supports what you already believe. Not because people are evil, because the brain protects identity the way it protects survival. 9. Groupthink. When intelligence becomes irrelevant, groupthink is one of the most reliable tragedies in human history. It's what happens when harmony becomes more valuable than truth. People silence doubts for unity. They avoid conflict. They suppress dissent. And intelligent people are not immune. Sometimes intelligence makes it worse, because smart people can rationalize anything. They can defend a position beautifully, even when it's wrong. They can build elegant arguments for conclusions they never properly examined. This is why propaganda doesn't fear smart people. It recruits them. It doesn't need everyone to be stupid. It only needs people to be socially obedient. 10. So, who profits from your exhausted mind? Now we reach the question nobody likes. Who benefits when you don't think deeply? The answer isn't one villain. It's a network of incentives. When people don't think, they consume more, they react more, they polarize more, they become predictable, they become easier to sell to, easier to guide, easier to manage. A population that thinks slowly is hard to manipulate. A population that reacts quickly is easy. So the world rewards whatever speeds you up. And then it punishes you for becoming shallow. 11. The antidote is not more intelligence, it's courage. This is the part that saves the entire video from becoming doom. Because here's the truth, the opposite of collective stupidity is not being smart, it's being brave. Brave enough to say, I don't know, I might be wrong. Let me think, let me read more. Let me hear the strongest argument against what I believe. That is rare, and that is why it matters. If you want to rebuild critical thinking, you don't start with arguments. You start with habits. Here are 3 practices, simple but radical. First, practice intellectual friction. Once a week, deliberately read a well-written view you disagree with, not to rage, not to win, to test your certainty. Second, slow down your sharing. Before you spread a claim, pause. Ask, do I know this, or do I just feel it? Third, protect silence. Not as aesthetics, as training. Because if you can't sit with silence, you can't sit with complexity. And complexity is where truth lives. 12. The final truth. Thinking is a moral act. Now we reach the most urgent conclusion. Critical thinking is not just a skill, it's a moral posture. Because when you stop thinking, you don't just become uninformed. You become usable. You become a tool, a mouthpiece, a predictable reaction machine. And that is why every authoritarian system, political, cultural, or technological, eventually attacks thinking. Sometimes with censorship, but more often with comfort. Comfort that says, don't worry about it. Let us handle it. Just pick a side. Just trust the right people. Just repeat the right words. And if you accept that, your mind becomes occupied territory. Carl Jung once suggested that people will do almost anything to avoid facing their inner world, and that is exactly why thinking disappears. Because real thinking doesn't only question the world, it questions you. It asks, why do I believe what I believe? What part of me needs this to be true? What am I afraid I'll lose if I change my mind? Those questions are terrifying, but they are also the beginning of freedom. So, here is your invitation. Do not become another person who reacts on command. Do not trade your mind for belonging. Do not let the world turn your attention into a resource it harvests. The most revolutionary act in the modern age is not shouting. It's pausing. It's thinking slowly in a world that wants you fast. It's choosing clarity over comfort. Because collective stupidity is not destiny. It's a habit, and every habit can be broken. If this video stirred something in you, leave a comment with one belief you're willing to question this week. Not to destroy yourself with doubt, but to rebuild your mind with honesty. Stay curious, stay awake, and above all, keep thinking.